Sun is up over central Virginia skies. Hanover moving and the city's alive. One more hour to own this town. WRVA never slowing down. Wake up rich and win the day, or spend the whole day playing catch up anyway. Richmond's morning news keeps you running strong. 9 a.m. Let's roll all morning long.
All right, 9 a.m. here on Richmond's Morning News. This is News Radio WRVA. My name is Rich Herrera. It's a pleasure. On Thursdays, we welcome our former governor, attorney general, and U.S. ambassador, Jim Gilmore, to the program, and we get a chance to talk about stuff here in the Commonwealth. And then, of course, I want to get his thoughts on what we're seeing, the negotiations with Iran in the Middle East and further worldwide complications. So, sir, thank you so much for staying with us. The latest is nothing has changed since I talked to you last week when it comes to what's going on with the Iranians. What are your thoughts?
Well, as I've studied the materials over the past week and this morning, nothing has changed. There's still a negotiation going on, but from my point of view, it's not a matter of making a deal. It's what kind of deal you can make. And right now, I think that we've got a bit of an issue here. The start of this war was basically to achieve certain ends, I think. And one of those really should have been regime change. Until you actually change the regime and make it a friendlier country, what are you trying to do with this war? Now, from the Israeli point of view, they were an imminent threat. They're right next to them. And the idea of their developing a nuclear weapon, which I believe they were trying to do, is the existential threat to the Israelis. Not to mention the ballistic missiles to deliver it. Now, they're still a long way away from that, Rich, but I think the Israelis felt threatened and felt this was a moment to go and thought they could get President Trump's backing, which they got. So now where are we? And that is that they killed the entire leadership under the theory that the population would then rise up and take over the country and create regime change. That has not occurred. It's not that easy to do in a totalitarian country. The Iranians demonstrated that by killing all the protesters. So nothing's really changed in Iran, nothing. So the question now is, what are we going to settle for, if anything? And the problem, of course, is that Iran now is in charge of the Strait of Hormuz. I don't care what kind of blockade we're doing to put pressure on the Iranians, but the theory right now is the use of force, one way or the other, military or economic, to make the Iranians do what we tell them to do. There's not much evidence right now that that's going to happen, and you can't move Iran. They're still there 10 years from now. So you have to try to change this regime and get it into a better place for the rest of the world. I don't know whether the application of force is going to do that right now or not. So we've got a real problem here. And don't lose sight of the fact that the Strait of Hormuz, ships moving in and out of that thing can't move unless they're insured. And as long as the Iranians are even making a threat, it makes the insurance very difficult, if not impossible, to get. So this is a real problem right now, and I don't know exactly how the president's going to solve this. I think what he's going to do is make the best deal that he can and leave, because the strategic implications of being tied down in Iran make no sense. But on the other hand, having Iran being a permanent threat to everybody in the Middle East and in control of the economic lifeline of the Middle East is not acceptable. So what do you do? And I think that we just have to stay tuned and watch the situation.
Couple things. We now know that they have rockets that are capable of hitting London. So if they were to get a nuke, you really would see the entire world under their thumb, because with a regime like that, I don't think they would subscribe to mutually agreed destruction. But here's what I think is a couple interesting things. I want to get your comments. A lot of people wanted to ascribe to Donald Trump and the administration regime change. I think they never really came out and said regime change was one of their goals, but I think they were hoping that was going to happen, but hope's not a strategy. I think they've always said all along, no nukes under any circumstances. Will support the allies. They've been causing chaos in the Middle East. It's time for someone to stand up to them, especially because they're getting close to being able to get the bomb. But I also think that when you look at this, the United States has a little bit of a hangover when it comes to engagements in the Middle East. James Mattis, General Mattis, has a book that I've read many, many times, and he talks about during the Obama administration that we said, you know what, we will just have big air campaigns, and that's how we'll fight wars. We're never going to put boots on the grounds. But we've discovered that just having air power and bombing people, you don't bomb them into submission. Maybe you beat them, but you don't get to conquer. You don't get to turn over. You're not going to get regime change without boots on the ground. And I think that's where we're stuck, because people certainly don't want to see boots on the ground in Iran. They don't want to see the U.S. Navy SEALs or Delta Force going in there grabbing that uranium. But unless you actually have a physical presence there, Iran still gets to try to run out the clock.
Well, I think grabbing the uranium by special forces is not realistic. You have to move in heavy moving equipment in order to do that, and they're going to be subject to drone attack. So that's probably really not an option unless the Iranians agree to it. So there's that. But look, the bombing, what we've learned in modern warfare, I think, and I'm no expert on this, I didn't go to the war college, but what I'm seeing, like everybody else, is that just bombing is not going to do the trick. That's a lesson that Putin needs to learn right now in Ukraine. All he's doing is making the Ukrainians angrier and angrier and wanting more and more vengeance. Well, I worry about that in the Middle East as well. But no, boots on the ground is a way of changing the country's regime. We saw it against the Nazis and force of bombing, of course, with the nuclear weapons against the Japanese, forced them to capitulate. Whereas you control. Look, if we're going to do that right now, frankly, I think that the only option is to raise an army of 1 million men and go on and invade Iran against a population that is not necessarily going to help you out. So that's probably not an option for the president. It's just not. So where are we at this point? He's going to have to make the best deal he can, but I think he's going to have to find a way to degrade the leveraging, the bargaining power of the Iranians. That has not yet become apparent, but I think that's what the president is in the process of doing with his blockade and with other efforts as well.
Who has more pressure on them right now? Donald Trump, with the price of gasoline in the United States and the Democratic Party breathing down his neck, trying to thwart the second half of this administration by taking the House, or the Iranians that are getting choked off right now, and economically they're being devastated by the blockade of their ports?
It's a good question, isn't it? And I think it remains to be seen. My instincts are that President Trump, who said yesterday he didn't care about the midterms, maybe doesn't care about the midterms. He's just trying to get muddle through this thing and get it done. I think that's right. I think that the Middle Eastern war is a distraction against the real issues that we've got to deal with, which is Ukraine, which I've made it clear to the listeners that I think that's the pivot of the future, because it's the pivot of Europe, which is, I believe, essential to the safety and security of the United States. But the real danger growing more and more we're seeing is Taiwan. Now, we don't want to see a war in Europe, a war in the Middle East, and a war in the Pacific all at the same time. But that is the looming danger that we've got here. I think it's still manageable. I have complete confidence in the success of the United States if it's properly managed. So I'm long term, I'm optimistic. But we've got to be prepared to deal with a dictator like Putin. We've got to be prepared to deal with a dictator like the Chinese dictator. And I think that that's the big challenge that remains ahead of us in the years ahead.
From a diplomatic standpoint, again, U.S. ambassador, I see the midterms coming, and I see the Democrats flailing, and their big thing is elect us, and we're going to stop Donald Trump in his tracks. I've said this on the air, but I want to make sure that I'm correct here. To me, that seems like the mullahs in Iran would root for that. Whether you're MAGA or not, whether you're Republican or not, Democrat or not, there's a bigger picture. If I'm saying, listen, this war of choice, the Iranians are watching this, does this give them oxygen and give them like, hey, listen, if we could just wait for the midterms, if they lose the House, Donald Trump's not going to be able to do any of this. They're going to cut off the funding, and we'll actually be able to wait this out.
Well, I think that our adversaries worldwide are watching what's going on in the American politics right now, to be sure. Look, I want to give you, everybody in this listening audience knows I'm a Republican, lifelong Republican, conservative Republican. But I want to make the following observation. I think the Democrats are maybe kidding themselves a little bit. I recognize what the polls say, and I'm not optimistic about the midterms. I'm not unrealistic about that. But on the other hand, the Democrats are going to have to offer a reasonable alternative to the voters of the United States, and they're not. They're still a nutty party. And so they're not really the party that people want to turn to. Now, they may turn that way because of the dislike of the administration that's in existence now, but they ought not to be too optimistic about this. The Democrats really need to remake themselves, and they're showing no interest in doing that. So what does that leave? Well, I think over the years ahead, it leaves you a real struggle within the Republican Party because you have the MAGA Republicans, many of whom are listening to me right now, and you have other Republicans, many of whom are listening to me right now. And I think there's got to be a Republican Party that's more traditional, that has room for everybody. And I've started to say that in the speeches that I've been giving. I think there's got to be room for MAGA Republicans and Reagan Republicans in order to really run this country right. Now, the Democrats think, well, we're just going to reject the whole Republican Party and turn to the Democrats, and they might succeed in the midterms. But in the long run, the public of the United States is not going to turn to the Democrats. They demonstrated that in the last presidential election. Now, we've got Governor Spanberger here, but this referendum trend was not good for her. She won by 15 points. The yes vote in the referendum won by 3. So the people of Virginia are watching this pretty close, too. And they're watching to see whether Governor Spanberger's policies and the policy of this radical General Assembly really what ought to be running Virginia. So there's just a lot of politics going on here, Rich.
Oh, 100%. And I'm glad that you pointed that out to everybody. Again, I'm a Reagan Republican. And I look and my first thought is for the American people more so than the parties or anything else. But we're just in an odd place right now. But then I keep going back reading history and we've always been in an odd place. That's why this grand experiment was only started here, and it's only 250 years old, and it's never going to be easy. It is chaotic.
If we stand by our principles, if we understand the separation of powers, if we're respectful of the rule of law, if we stop attacking the courts, which I think are trying to do the right thing, not just politics, if we really debate this thing openly and have a lot of argument going back and forth in the United States, we will always prevail. That's always been the strength of this country, and I have absolute faith in it. But it does mean that we have to have a duty of citizenship, and that's something that, frankly, I think needs to be reviewed.
Well, okay, you just said something, and we're over on time. Dave's yelling at me. I got to wrap this up. Argument is good. We shouldn't be afraid of it. Unfortunately, now everybody thinks arguing is a bad thing. Disagreeing and talking out our differences is one of the things that makes America great. So I'm glad you brought that up. Sir, I appreciate everything, and I will catch up with you next week.
Look forward to it, Rich. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jim Gilmore. Good man. Glad we get a chance to talk to him on Thursdays. He's right. Don't be afraid to argue. Don't be afraid. When I started this show, I said, one of the things I've taught my son, what Nixon told Khrushchev, don't be afraid of new ideas. Today's program is brought to you in part by A+ Windows. Okay, you bought a house, you need to replace the windows, but you keep seeing all these ads and this person, that person. You go to the stores and it's confusing. How about finding somebody who's going to tell you about new windows, technology, and help you get comfortable so you make the right choice? That's what Billy Keane does. He doesn't want to sell you a window. He wants to educate you about what windows do, and more importantly, what they don't, and why they cost this much and they cost that much, and how it can help your house. Learn more, so that way you have all of the information you need to buy the window to replace the ones that you need to replace in your house. And by the way, you don't have to replace them all at once. You can work piecemeal. Call Billy and just find out more about windows. That's what he wants to. He likes being that destination for education. Call him 804-303-4136, 804-303-4136, or go online to apluswindows.com.
I've heard life is a series of crossroads, and when at the wheel, how we handle them matters. I know these roads by heart, while other drivers may be just starting to find their way. Staying sharp at intersections isn't just about my safety, it's about protecting others too. I want to be independent, but also be safe. Virginia Grand Driver helps me do both. Learn more at granddriver.net.
Brought to you by Virginia DMV and Virginia Grand Driver.
Are you a caregiver for a family member? Comfort Keepers provides companionship, personal care, meal preparation, and other services that help people live full, independent, and dignified lives within the comfort of their own homes. Call Comfort Keepers at 804-750-1123.
Woodfin, your home team, is the neighbor Richmond is trusted to provide award-winning plumbing solutions since 1977.
I've been a Woodfin customer for almost 20 years. Woodfin takes care of our HVAC, electricity, plumbing. So when our hot water heater went down, we immediately called Woodfin. They have a team of excellent plumbers that really know what they're doing. It was very stress-free because I could count on Woodfin to fix it. Woodfin is our home team.
Woodfin, your home team, your #1 faithful friend.
By texting 64000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and the world's #1 expandable hose has gone ballistic. The brand new Pocket Hose Ballistic is here, and it's the hose I reach for every time. This brand new anti-burst sleeve uses an extraordinary new liquid crystal polymer used in bulletproof vests, tough enough to handle anything your outdoor tasks throw its way. And that's not all. The Pocket Hose Ballistic comes with even more upgrades like thicker washers that resist leaks and an enhanced UV coating so your hose looks brand new year after year.
That would be the only true thing in the
song.
song.
That? How about not 1, but 2 free gifts with your purchase? For a limited time, when you purchase a new Pocket Hose Ballistic, you'll get a free 360-degree rotating pocket pivot and a free thumb drive nozzle. Just text SUMMER to 64,000. That's SUMMER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. That's SUMMER to 64,000.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them.
I don't have time to be sitting in here listening to
powerful
songs.
Technology identifies people
I
with
wish
the
I had
right
that much free
experience
time in here.
and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers